Good morning, everybody. Newsy morning meeting. Thank you for joining. Associated Press and CNN reporting that Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota will be Kamala Harris's running mate. Thanks for joining. If you're on YouTube or here on the two-way platform, we're going to get to a lot of you today. Want to hear what you think of this pick, regardless of who you're supporting. There's not much going on today. JD Vance is doing an event at noon in Philadelphia. No Trump events. There's White House briefing in the afternoon. No Biden events. And the only event we know of that the vice president's having, although maybe they'll go get hoagies or cheesesteaks, is this 5:30 p.m. Unveiling event in Philadelphia that we expect Governor Shapiro to be at. I think there's three ways to talk about this decision. One is why Walz over Shapiro. Two, why wasn't it Shapiro? And would that have been a better pick? And then three is, how does this ticket do? And I mostly want to focus on the last one. The other two are interesting, and I'm sure they'll come up. But let's just focus on this ticket. To me, the Republican frame now is easy. It's two socialists, two unqualified socialists are the Democratic ticket. That's what they'll say. And I think it seems like what the Democrats did was say, this is a solid, safe pick, not a gangbusters pick, but I think compared to Tim Kaine, I say Governor Walz is Tim Kaine without the charisma. So that's a joke. Tim Hogan, Minnesotan. Tim, newly fashionable name. What
Yes.
do you think? What do you think about the strength of this ticket, and will Mar-a-Lago be quaking in their boots?
I think it's a fantastic pick. I think it is the right pick. I think the country over the last couple of weeks, as Walz was hitting the cable circuit and doing events, saw someone who captured their attention, had a lot of momentum, and I think underrated. And what he brings to any ticket that he's on is that he's an incredible communicator. He speaks like a normal person to people about issues that they care about. That is without getting really into any of his biography. But I'm elated that he's going to be on the national stage. Minnesota, we produce vice presidents, land of 10,000 vice presidents. And I think he's going to do a fantastic job. Again, great bio, veteran educator, won a Trump congressional district that Trump won by 15 points, sandwiched between Michelle Bachmann and Steve King back in the day, ran a very solid populist agenda in Minnesota with a one-seat majority in the House. To your point, Republicans obviously going to find stuff to dig through there. I don't think people look at Tim Walz and can credibly call him a socialist, some way similar to how that label did not stick to Joe Biden. So I think it'll be fascinating.
Sean.
I am ecstatic. I am so pleased with this pick. I appreciate the Tim Kaine reference. I actually think, he's more boring and further to the left than Tim Kaine. I honest to God, I really, I get the forces. I'm not saying that there weren't without them, but I think putting Pennsylvania in play was such a smarter move. I think you are going to see a lot of excitement this morning. That being said, let's just go back to the overarching narrative. I still maintain that VP picks don't move the needle. And if you talk about not move the needle, this isn't even going to prick. There's nothing about Tim Walz that is exciting. I think to say safe is an understatement. They caved to the anti-Semitic forces within the Democratic Party. They literally, and that's great. I mean, you took away all the negative, if you will, or the potential going into Chicago, for the sake of somebody who's going to give us the opportunity to go further left. Shapiro, there's enough Republicans that were on the record during that gubernatorial run that they would have had a great time running around saying, here's all these Trump supporters said that he was a good guy, he's the right person, blah, blah, blah. In favor of somebody not. So I think on behalf of almost every Republican, thank you, Kamala Harris. You showed us a lot with your first major pick.
Right. So every Democratic consultant I know who's not of the left said at some point Vice President Harris is going to have to, if not do a sister soldier, at least signal her more centrist proclivities. And this was an opportunity to do it, and she's passed on it. I know that there are elements of his record that are more moderate, but to the extent that he is going to be an descriptive badge for her and a signal to the country, and maybe he won't be, maybe he'll just fade into the woodwork. But to the extent he is, Tim, I just can tell you that people are going to seize on the more liberal aspects of his record, not just the Trump campaign, but the more liberal aspects of his governor record. Even liberals in Minnesota, I was emailing with last night, said he's governed as governor. He's been a liberal.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think a couple points there. One, I think it's hard to make the case. I know why Republicans want to do it. That he's not an exciting pick, having taken his stock from off the radar to an incredible audition.
Wait. I want to get to exciting in a second.
Okay.
But
So
go to this question
on the
of
agenda, on the agenda,
ideology, and a signal of where she is on the spectrum.
Look, I think Walz was pressed on this throughout his audition for 2 weeks. I thought he gave a fantastic answer on it, which is to highlight what came out of what people were calling the Minnesota Miracle, which is passing an agenda that feeds school kids, expands paid family leave, expands healthcare. There's a lot there that is middle of the road and is common sense and is moderate. And Tim Walz is a person who can talk about those things in a way that I think we have not seen a VP communicator previously signal. So, of course, they're going to try to drag her to the left and say this is a lefty pick. I think that is going to be more difficult than people think the more they get to know Tim Walz and the more they know about what he actually did in Minnesota. He also did it with a one-seat majority. You can't go super far to the left.
Yeah.
You have a one-seat majority in the Senate.
I'm just going to say I will be very interested to see how much this reverberates within the Jewish community in America. This is no question. If it wasn't for that issue, and frankly, they better explain it. But this is an outrage if you are, for the Jewish community to see somebody who had all of the political pieces there. The only reason that Josh Shapiro is not getting chosen is because of his religion, and I hope to God that Republicans are smart enough to do it tactfully today to bring up the fact that this was an issue and mobilize the Jewish vote.
Sean, I'm not sure you're right. I think it could have been other issues, including that she didn't want to deal with someone.
I'm sorry. Look, no, I get it. He's very ambitious, and maybe she didn't want him overshadowed. I get that.
Yeah.
Let me bring that back a second. Again, this is politics. This is about using issues to your advantage, trying to figure out what you can do to win on an issue or lose on an issue. This is an opportunity for Republicans to use this issue and make them answer for it.
Yeah.
So right or wrong, she may have thought that he was going to overshadow her or said some wrong things in the meeting. Who knows? But that's what this is all about.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to get in the conversation, please raise your hand. I see a bunch of hands up. Being frank, it's a bunch of hands of people who've already spoken in this platform. And that it doesn't mean you can never speak more than once, but I'd love to get some new people in as well. So please, if you want to be part of this, raise your hand. We'll get you in. Tim, I cover politics for a living. I'd heard of Tim Walz. I couldn't have picked him out of a lineup before all this. I knew he was a congressman. I knew he was governor of Minnesota. I'm not making fun of him. I'm not saying he can't be a star. But what explains his low profile? Yeah. Is it because he doesn't want to be on famous? Is it because his demeanor just doesn't lend itself? Why was he not famous if he was such a great rising star in the party?
I mean, I don't know. I could make the argument like workhorse versus show horse. He's not someone who, in his capacity as someone who is a congressman, who is a governor who has really chased the cameras. He's kind of just done the work. Also, I think the fact that Democrats do have an incredibly deep bench. There are a lot of people that are other governors. He leads the DGA who also shine. But I think, look, I really do think the trajectory of the last 2.5 weeks, he has made a name for himself. And I think that is what more people are going to hear is a message he's communicating. I think America is going to fall in love with Tim Walz. I mean, I'm biased. I know him. I'm from Minnesota. But I really think it's going to happen.
Real quick, I will say this. This is going to be unbelievably awkward today in Philadelphia, though. So I'm excited to watch that stage happen and wonder where Josh Shapiro is.
I don't think it will be. We'll see. All right, let's bring folks in again. If you want to be in the conversation, please raise your hand. Tell us where you are today, who you're supporting the election, and ask away, comment away. What do you think of the pick? David, unmute. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is Dave from Washington, D.C. I'm a lifelong Washingtonian, Democrat, but I'm not working in politics, nor have I in the past. I am thrilled with the choice. I think she had a lot of good choices, but I think all this talk about anti-Semitism I just think it's misplaced. I think that you can't, just because someone wasn't picked, say that it's anti-Semitic. She had a lot of good choices. There are a lot of things that go in the mix with it. I was happy with a lot of her choices, and I'm excited for the Democrats.
If the vice president asks you what she needs to do to win the election, what would you tell her?
100% move towards the center.
Okay, so wouldn't it have been better to pick a more centrist running mate?
Oh, I agree with you. I had my favorites, but I still think he was a good choice. Yeah.
Okay, so how would you tell her to move to the center without inflaming the left?
Well, I think to some extent, people need to get part of what they want, not necessarily everything they want, and that's the nature of politics. And that kind of goes down to her decision to not go with Shapiro. So she does need to take a moderate position on the Israeli and the Palestinian side of that issue. And she has to convincingly convince people that she's going to keep up the momentum that they've built on border security. And I would also say she's got to convince people that she's going to be a good steward of the economy. If she moves towards the center and people believe it, she's won the election. That's my opinion.
Great. David, thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks for joining. All right. Ms. Keating, unmute, please. Go ahead.
Hi, very briefly, I'm just thinking she was damned if she did and damned if she didn't choose Shapiro. If she,
Alicia, sorry to interrupt. Tell everybody where you are and who you're supporting, please.
I'm in Connecticut. I'm a Democrat all my life, supporting Harris. I would have preferred to see Mark Kelly or Josh Shapiro. I don't know Tim Walz. I guess I'm going to get a crash course in the next couple of days. But I think she was damned if she did pick Shapiro, because I think it speaks to the racism of the voters that she's worried about, and a bit of realpolitik here, maybe, that she was worried that a biracial and a Jewish candidate might be a little bit too much for people who are maybe not as open-minded. And now that she hasn't picked him, she's getting claims of anti-Semitism. So I think even putting him in the mix was problematic. But
Yeah.
there you
How
go.
do you rate her chances of winning the general election?
I think she's going to win.
Did you think Biden was going to win?
No.
No. Guys, have any question for Ms. Keating?
I will say the one thing that I think is going to be interesting if it ever happens is I'd love to hear a TikTok as to how Mark Kelly got tossed aside at some point.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that too. I'm wondering, because he would have been stellar. He would have been.
Well, there's clearly like there's something. I mean, there's a lot of rumblings. I would just say that, but I would be intrigued as to how he made it as far as he did, and then sort of just fell off. But I will leave that to some enterprising reporter down the road.
All right, Alicia, thank you so much. Let's bring in Daniel. Daniel, to remind everybody where you're from and who you're supporting, and go ahead.
Good morning. I am in Arizona. I will be voting for Harris, but I think that she just gave Sean Spicer a birthday present a little bit early. I think that she had a chance to do something bold and shake things up with energy, and I think she decided to pass and bunt, and I think it's a huge mistake, and I think she's going to lose.
You think she's going to lose?
VP pick?
I think this is a game changer and she's going to lose.
Wow.
I think that he's going to be boring. He's not going to give the energy that the campaign needed. And she had a real chance to do something amazing here and didn't.
Daniel, what do you know? What do you know about Walz that makes you say that? Just
Absolutely zero.
How about the fact that he looks?
Me
How about
right
the
there
fact
that I know
how about the
absolutely
fact that he's
zero.
How about the fact that he's younger than me but looks older than me? Doesn't that give you a little bit of caution on both fronts?
He's just not going. I think one of you guys said it yesterday. He looks like an old Republican voter. He does, and there's no
That's the bipartisan move.
There's no charisma. She had a chance, and you don't get chances that often to shake things up and to make a difference. And she chose not to.
Daniel, if she asked you now, said, Daniel, look, I know you didn't like my pick, but what can I do to win? What would you tell her?
Prove that you are the smartest damn politician on the planet. Have good answers to every question and come off as intelligent and caring and brilliant. you're just going to have to show you are so damn smart that you are the candidate that everybody has to have. Like, she raised the bar on herself right now. She had a chance to take a little pressure off herself, and Josh Shapiro would have filled in the gap.
Daniel, do you consider yourself more of a moderate or centrist Democrat?
Dead center moderate.
Okay. I want to read you a tweet by Brad Todd, who's a Republican consultant, and ask you what you think of this as a Democrat. We found out something very important about Kamala Harris today. Even when she has tremendous personal political risk, she cannot resist the pressure of her party's most radical leftists.
I really don't know if she made this decision to satisfy the leftist, or she just made it because it's a safer pick. Safer, but worse.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I will just say, like, we're in a process where you got picked, 15 minutes ago. I think on this call from people, and I'm not critiquing. I'm just saying we have heard this was the safe pick. We have heard this was the lefty pick. I think it is. You have to give it a little bit of time. And Daniel, I hope you have an open mind about it. Wait to hear from Walz. Someone put in the chat, and this is such a good point. If you want to talk about energy, wait for him to get up, deliver a speech. The guy was a football coach. He knows how to rile people up, and I think he showed it over the last couple of weeks. So,
all right. Look,
Daniel, just 2 quick points.
Daniel, hold on. Daniel, thank you. Go ahead, Sean, and then Megan McCain.
I would just say, look, this, I get each side is going to be defensive about their pick and why. And I agree. We don't know, and we'll never know. But the same way we didn't know, I've always believed that the chemistry was there between Trump and JD, and everybody is ascribing certain rationale as to how he was chosen. This is what we do. And in lieu of actually getting inside the candidate's mind, this is how we as voters, whether it's issues or choices, personnel, policy, whatever, this is what we do. This is why we have calls like that. But I'm just saying, like, the reality is, number one, this is politics. How you go after somebody, pro or con, is the name of the game for the next 90 days. And the second is, I'll go back to what I said at the outset. I don't think either JD Vance on the right or on the far extreme left, Tim Walz, is going to affect this. This is going to come down between these two top candidates. And we love to talk about it. He's not going to, Minnesota will probably revert back the same way it was. And that's it. But we have, the race is pretty much where it is today. And it's going to get fought out in the next 91 days on the same issues that it was 3 days ago, including...
Okay, hold on. I want to get Megan in, but first I want to read you 2 texts I've gotten. Okay, and I'm not saying they're right. I'm just giving you a reflection of opinion. One from a very senior person in the Trump orbit, whose one-word text is "woo!" exclamation point, as in relief, and the other is from one of the most visible anti-Trump Harris supporters in America, who says, not one word but 4 words. What a loser pick. Okay. Not consensus, but interesting data points. Megan McCain.
Hi.
Loser pick or masterstroke?
So I did a bunch of research. My family and I had to take a 6-hour drive 2 days ago, and I listened to a bunch of podcasts and interviews with Tim Walz because everyone was buzzing about him. And by the time I got to our vacation destination, he scared the crap out of me. He is an absolute radical progressive. Anyone who cares about, I know I'm always ringing the bell. I'm sorry, Tim. I know I'm going to make you upset because I know you love him so much.
It's a good day for Tim's regardless. It's fine.
Okay. I know I'm always ringing the bell about mom stuff, but his stance on gender affirming care is radical even by the most progressive people. His stuff about school choice. Hello, that's my daughter. And anything having to do with the 2020 riots and the summer of hell. I mean, Minnesota was ground zero, and he is defund the police. I mean, I keep saying he's a Trojan horse dressed in a red state veneer, but he is he scares the living shit out of me to the point that I was maybe JD Vance isn't this bad. And this is just me doing a very, very deep dive because I wanted to know and talk about it. And this is like an insane choice. I mean, this is a absolute gift to Trump and Republicans today. I could help write the attack ads right now, particularly directed towards women who are suburban moms up for grabs right now. I wouldn't trust him to run anything, let alone be vice president. And I can't believe that Vice President Harris is this progressive. I didn't know she was this progressive. And I agree with Sean Spicer, last final thing. The anti-Semitism argument is a real one with the Democratic Party. It looks like you have to just be, I mean, a moron not to want to win Pennsylvania and see the skills and the approval ratings of Governor Shapiro. And to pass him up, there is one reason and one reason alone. It's his stance on Israel and the fact that he's Jewish. That's what I think. And good luck at the convention when it's going to look like my alma mater, Columbia University, and apparently being Jewish is a negative to be a VP candidate. The whole thing is completely disappointed me, and I think it's going to have real ramifications, particularly for moms. Thank you,
Megan. Thank you. I will say again, I do believe that there's at least one other reason why they didn't pick Shapiro, which we can talk about. We'll probably talk about it in my two-way tonight. But on this question, Tim, I know you don't agree with Megan, but I've seen some of the same stuff Megan's seen, and I know he's an interesting guy with a range of positions, some more moderate, but it is going to be so easy for Remember, the only reason you pick a running mate in terms of political implications almost ever is, what does it say about the judgment at the top of the ticket? And that is this person ready to be president? Is he ready to be president because he's got enough experience in government? I think he clears the bar.
Yes.
But some people have said to me what Megan has said, which is he's not really sending a great signal about whether it can escape the exact frame that the Mar-a-Lago wants to put on her, which is she's extremely radical liberal. And he's got a lot of positions. It's just objectively, factually, he's got a lot of positions that they're now going to hang on her and say this was her choice, and she chose someone with some really extremely progressive positions. Tim.
Yeah. I mean, look, I am, going back, similar, getting text, people excited about this as a strategic pick as well. I would push back on the point that regardless of who, and I disagree with the frame that he is necessarily a leftist and it's going to push her to the left, but I also don't know that picking a vice president who would be seen as more centrist actually moves the ticket to the center or has any lasting impact. That said, again,
what we say, about chicken soup and Zabars doesn't hurt.
Yeah. But I do think, look, everything you have said, everything I think Megan laid out, those were the types of attacks that I think were coming from Republicans anyway. And I actually think there are a few things there that Republicans might chase that will take them down a rabbit hole with Tim Walz. I think there's a lot there's, for example, on the riots, there is actually a decent contrast there with Trump, where Trump said, I had to send in the National Guard. He didn't send in the National Guard. Tim Walz did. Mark Esper, the former defense secretary under Trump, said, follow Walz's lead on this type of thing in his book. So there's there's plenty who, regardless of who is going to be the pick for Republicans to latch onto and throw at them, I think there is good pushback on all of this. I think there is a way for Tim Walz to frame himself as a populist governor from the middle of the country who can talk to you about fertilizer and, mowing your lawn like a normal person. And he's shown that over the last couple of weeks. I think that is the biggest asset.
Sean, do you want to say anything or move on?
No, well, I think, look, here's the thing. You keep talking about how the do no harm, and we're already coming up with a lot of concerns that this wasn't a do no harm. This wasn't the safe pick. And I think that they're going to come back and potentially regret this. This is what a really quick vetting process looks like. When you meet the guy for 30 minutes on a Sunday, and that's your first real interaction with him, this is not, I have a feeling a week from now, this may be a concern.
Maybe they'll both replace their running mates.
No.
Let me just say one thing.
I will just say in closing is this is what we got to do, right? This is the ringer we go through. Yeah. I am more optimistic at the end of this call as a proud Minnesotan about the pick. I get it. This is the process, but I think there's strong pushback on all of it.
Brian, Megan, thank you. Listen, I want to say one thing about this platform, and I know it's useless for me to say it, but I'll keep saying it. If you look at a particular episode of this program or any episode on Two Way, you might hear things you don't like. And you might even say, well, they listen to more pro-Trump people or more Harris people. This is not a scripted program. I'm calling on people from across the country. We're bringing in guests. it's not always going to work out like exactly even, but the aspiration is to be pretty even here and to have all voices heard, not just centrist, moderates, and independents, far left, far right, everybody. So please don't reach a conclusion about this platform based on one episode, because we're listening to everybody, and it's not always going to work out totally even. I get very frustrated when people do that, and I'll keep saying it even though I know it's useless. All right, Brian, unmute, please. Tell us where you are and
Hi,
who you're
Mark.
supporting and what you think of this exciting Minnesotan.
But we'll get to that in a second. I'm from Montgomery County, Maryland. I'm I guess I'd say a bad rhino. I haven't voted Republican much, but I think I'm more to the right because of what the supposed economic issues are for Republicans. But in any case, I voted mostly for Democrats. I'm a never, ever Trumper. And I think this pick, I've been on the calls, and I really thought after last night, boy, it just makes a lot of sense to go with Shapiro. And I think the move to Walz, I think that's wrong. Sorry, Tim. But I think that's because she would just be outshined. I mean, watching the video that you put up, that's the only time I really seen Shapiro in a speech. I think I've seen him on TV in the prior years. And it is. It's like watching Obama and Clinton. You can see. I mean, he even says, look before he says something. He goes, look before he continues on with his thoughts. So I thought that would end up being a bigger problem. I mean, if it's going to be a brave choice, I would have gone with Buttigieg opposed to Walz because it could take the concern about getting the gay kicked back. But he's very pragmatic. I think the pragmatism would come through. So I'm disappointed in this. I think it can hurt. You could always be accused of being more left. I mean, the vice president may not bring you to the right, but I think Harris's way out here is to go to the middle.
Okay, Brian, thank you.
One thing about this platform, Mark, is everyone's apologizing to me if they have anything negative to say about Tim Walz. So it's very civil.
That's nice. It is very civil. They're not slamming you. Let me. I'm just looking because I know there's some great people on here who don't have their hands up, who have lots of experience in national politics, and I want to see if we can, as we close here, just cycle through some of them. If you don't want to come on camera, just give me a thumbs down when I spotlight you. But I'd love to just get like one or two sentences from what you think of this pick. Hank Morris, can you unmute? You're on your walk, I see, but can you unmute and tell us what you think? Maybe not. Little too walky there. All right. Let me try Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly, you want to come on? No. Oh, yes. Greg Kelly. What do you think of this pick, Greg?
Gotta hit unmute.
Oh, sorry.
I
Greg,
commend
go ahead.
Megan for doing all that research. I don't know all that much about him. I am struck by how mediocre his resume is right off the top. He didn't go into politics until he was in his 40s, which is probably good, but all that, he just looks incredibly average. And I do think she didn't want to be outshone, and that's anyway. I'm feeling pretty good about it because I'm for Trump.
Right, Greg, thank you, Greg. Mr. Speaker Gingrich, what do you think?
Well, I think probably Sean and I are pretty close to the same place. Mar-a-Lago should have a party this evening at two levels. One is we just learned that Vice President Harris, faced with the one person who could give her Pennsylvania in all probability. I think I was concerned that if she chose the governor of Pennsylvania, that he is so popular and that she would be so much moved towards the center on issues like fracking that, those 19 electoral votes are a huge deal. Well, she just threw that away. And if you're competing for Minnesota as a Democrat, you have to wonder why you're in the business. Now, luckily for them, you had Sanders endorse Walz, so we now have clear indication that the hard left is thrilled. They got the governor they wanted, and you can talk all you want to about how he looks like a moderate. When you started, Meghan McCain had exactly right. I have many friends from Minnesota who have been saying to me, this guy is about as radical as you can get outside of California. And she had a chance to go towards the center, pick up a key state, and have a very strong person. Instead, she threw away Pennsylvania, moved to the left when her major weakness is she's already on the left. And I would think it'll be malpractice if the Trump campaign can't explain all this in a way which is decisive and which makes it almost impossible for Harris to win.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Jill Abramson, what do you think?
I question how big a factor the vice presidential choice is going to be, but this choice makes the race more ideological with J.D. Vance on the extreme right and Walz seeming to be on the extreme left as far as my research shows.
So you think Tim's view notwithstanding, he is somewhat to the left, at least somewhat to the left.
Yeah, no, he's definitely somewhat to the left. It's just a question, is he the equivalent of Vance on the left?
Right. And Jill, what do you think about passing over one of the most talented politicians in the party from the ultimate battleground state?
I think what everybody else said, that Shapiro would have been the bold choice that takes her to the center, and the fact that she passed on that tells us something about her.
Okay, Jill, thank you. Let's go to, I want to get one more person in, and of course it's going to be Jessica, who's supporting Governor or Vice President Harris. And is in Florida. Jessica, can someone unmute Jessica? I'm having a little trouble doing that on this where I am. Jessica, go once you're unmuted, go ahead. Tell us what you think of this pick. Again, if somebody can unmute Jessica, that'd be incredible. I'm having trouble doing it. Here we go. There you go, Jessica. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay, I am so thrilled with this pick. Probably my biggest circle that's not just like random moms or whatever is in the education space. And I'm talking friends from like Gen Z, like 20 years old, all the way up. My oldest friend in the school board crowd is 92. And everyone is so thrilled with this pick. They're so excited, including a couple of Jewish teachers too, because he is unapologetically progressive when it comes to education. Now, to be fair, here in Sarasota, we have school choice, and I'm glad we do. I'm not against school choice, but we now have universal vouchers, and it's just gone too far. There's no guardrail. So, I may not want to go as far left as Tim Walz, but I don't think that that's what it's going to look like nationally. I just think he's a voice, he's a pushback, especially in some states where it's like right to work, which is really just like an anti-union state, in schools where there's universal vouchers, which is bankrupting public schools. So, it's not so much that I agree with him on every single thing, but to me, he's a voice for the other side. And let's say that you think he's as far left as J.D. Vance is far right. If you put those two next to each other, J.D. Vance sounds crazy to me, and Tim Walz sounds like he makes sense. He makes progressive policies sound practical, and it doesn't mean that I'm necessarily behind every single thing that he does in Minnesota, but he's very authentic. I think he's the most authentic candidate in the race, really, maybe other than Trump, but that's not.
Jessica, any doubt in your mind that this pick helps Vice President Harris win the election?
I think so, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because the Gen Z loves him, and I think for people like the working class, I think he speaks to them in a really real way.
Great, Jessica, thank you. Tim, thanks you.
Can I make one quick point? For all the reasons that Jessica just said, I think that helps Trump hugely in Pennsylvania. The idea that he is being embraced by the left for these progressive ideas is going to hurt him in a state like Michigan, in a state like Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona. Again, I don't put a ton of stock into this, but it continues to push her to the far left. Everyone or a lot of people who commented talked about potentially the move back to the middle. She can't pick somebody to the far left and then say, I'm going to pivot to the middle on an issue. It doesn't work like that. It's that she is cementing herself as a far left progressive.
Does Minnesota have a song like On Wisconsin?
We have the Minnesota Rouser at the University of Minnesota.
Belt out a little bit of it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Skyuma. So look, I think there is part of this too, that you're going to see a dissection of his record. But I will also say for the folks who want to say he's so far to the left, he's so far to the left, look at his congressional record and like try to make that case when
Okay.
the big focus that he was doing was on
There's gonna-
veteran benefit. I mean, it's like, it's just.
There's gonna be a deep dive. Normally, we don't see as much scrutiny of Democrats, but this guy's gonna get an extremely deep dive with Meghan McCain leading the way. Thank you for everybody who participated. Jill, Speaker Gingrich, Megan, everybody. We're grateful to you. I'll be back tonight, probably at 7 Eastern time with another two-way. That'll be after the announcement event, so we'll be able to show you some of that if you miss it. And we look forward to that. And come back tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel. Minnesota's Tim Hogan, Sean Spicer of Rhode Island, and I will be looking at day 2 of this and everything else that's going on. Thanks, everybody.